What's going on, everyone? Max here. We are back for some more Louis Tomlinson. If you are new here, I'm a communication skills coach, and what I do on this channel is I look at all different types of people's communication skills and I give you my thoughts. Louis is a guy who's always stood out to me. I've gotten a few requests for his recent interview on Zach Sang. I have about 4 clips pulled up right now, so I'm gonna check out those clips. I'm gonna give you my thoughts, and if you haven't yet, take 1 second, pause the video, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you. Let's get it going.
You and Zayn are still friends, yeah? You guys, like, there's a...
Are we friends? You'd have to ask him. Like, I feel... I don't think I'm mature enough to kind of get over what's frustrated me in that relationship. I don't know if I'm mature enough now, but I'm definitely closer to kind of being over all that. There's been numerous times over the last couple of years where I've thought about him and hoped he's all right. So... And I've tried, it's hard. I've tried to get in touch with him, but it's hard.
Clearly, they're not really friends right now. I think that's pretty obvious. Doesn't seem like Louis really holding any resentment towards Zayn. I don't know, Louis sort of got a different demeanor here. I think Louis showing some good self-awareness when he's saying, hey, like, listen, I might have some work to do to get over whatever it is that I need to get over.
I don't think I'm mature enough to kind of get over what's frustrated me.
I think that's pretty cool of Louis to open up like this.
Well, he's been posting some clips of One Direction songs on Instagram, and you've been liking them.
Well, there you go. You've done your research there. Yeah, exactly.
The You and I high note?
Huh?
The You and I high note?
Come on, man. He's a different caliber in terms of singer, Zayn. Definitely, I will say that.
Yeah, see, like, Louis cool and mature enough, regardless of what's happened in the relationship, to give Zayn his props where those props are due. Louis seems like he's not as like hyperactive as we've seen Louis in the past here. It looks like he's calmed down a little. He's still got that good energy about him, but it's a little bit more subdued. He seems to, in this particular scene, be just a little bit more on the defensive as opposed to the offensive.
On Instagram, and you've been liking them.
Well, there you go. You've done your research there.
He's usually sort of setting the pace, and here he's sort of like reacting. He's just a little more reactive here, it feels like, and that makes sense due to the nature of the questioning, right?
I wasn't just liking it for the sake of liking it. I'd say it was a nice feeling because, you know, in the past he said what he said about the band, and I understand some of what he was saying, but for me, that on those videos, it showed he was reflecting. It showed he was thinking about those times. Of course, at the same time, showing off his incredible voice. But that's why it made me feel good, because it was like, oh, maybe you're thinking about good times in the band. Do you know what I mean?
It seems like, you know, if I had to guess, just judging by how he's responding to this question here, I think that Louis feels hurt. But hearing Zayn's music, I think maybe it helped repair Louis' thoughts, or at least make him feel about this Zayn situation a little bit more positively, it feels like, because it sounds like Louis was hurt about Zayn maybe not caring as much as Louis thought he did, and now Louis thinking, okay, maybe Zayn did care.
That's why it made me feel good, because it was like, oh, maybe you're thinking about good times in the band. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like as you grow and you look back, things do take on new meaning.
Yeah, definitely.
I think Louis is getting real here. Now, this is actually cool. I think we're seeing a little bit of a vulnerable moment from Louis here. Louis not in funny, charming, joking around, you know, Mr. Charismatic mode right now. He's really trying to figure out how he feels. It's nice seeing Louis in this light, being reflective and opening up like this.
End up seeing the past a little bit differently than others.
Yeah, that's true. I think in time. The thing is, we just have to bump into each other because neither of us have each other's number. I suppose maybe so.
Louis so sweet, you know, and he's always so good at acknowledging what people say. He's even done it a few times already in this one short clip, you know, pointing to Zach's co-host there, being like, you've done your research.
There you go, you've done your research there.
Even there, Louis made a little bit of a comment about what Zach just said. And
yeah, that's true.
Louis really listens to you, as in your face as Louis can be at times, and as dominant of a personality as he can be at times. He's super self-aware and he's very hyper aware of the situation around him. And he makes it a point to acknowledge the people around him. So I think he's an excellent communicator in that way.
I suppose maybe social media might be the way. But,
Slide into the DMs.
Exactly, yeah, fucking hell. I think I know him too well for that.
Like a little bit. You drove in a white painter's van together?
Do you know what I mean?
Sec?
Yeah, we go way back, man. You remember me, right?
It is actually quite interesting and telling that Louis willing to engage in this subject matter openly, to the point where he's like debating whether he will or how he will reach out to Zayn. And you can kind of sense that he wants to, right? Obviously he wants to, doesn't necessarily need to be best friends with him, it doesn't seem like, but it certainly seems like he wants to be on good terms with him. So let's move on to this next clip here. What happened to Zayn and Louis' mystery van.
So I think I was like 20 and he was like 19. We got this white like builder's van and we wrapped it as the mystery machine. Do you know the irony? I don't even love Scooby-Doo. Like I don't mind it, but like it was just like a funny thing to do. So I was like, all right, fuck it. And we built like, do you know where the window wipers, the jet for the wipers?
Yes.
So that's like, it's like this big and it's got two little fucking nozzles. We had...
And Louis dropping the F-bomb a little bit more here for those One Direction fans, Louis fans. You might have heard that a lot more than I have, but he just seems a lot more loose and relaxed in this interview. Just his whole style of communicating, it feels like he's kind of just hanging out with a couple friends in his living room. There's just a sense of a little bit more peace here with Louis. Like, he doesn't seem like he has to be on here, which is really nice. I've always said this on this channel. Like, as an audience, from a communication standpoint, it's much easier to connect with people when we feel that they're really being themselves, when we feel that they're really just speaking in a way that they would normally speak to their friends. So I tell people all the time who watch this channel, like, be yourself when you communicate. If we're looking for connection in our lives, I think that's one of the best ways to go about it.
Your personal use.
I'm not gonna lie, when we were in One Direction, the fact that One Direction are going around it, that's good promo.
Yes.
I don't care how big Scooby-Doo is. Spat our dummies out, me and Zayn. We're like, fuck it then. We drove around in like a white builder's van for a while.
Because that's not creepy.
Little bit.
That's funny. That's one of the things you gotta love about Louis too. In these moments, I love how he doesn't take himself too seriously. And he's just so quick to laugh at himself.
Little bit.
It makes you want to be around a guy like Louis. I've said this before, it's hard to be around people who take themselves very seriously and are uptight. And if you made a joke like that, they couldn't acknowledge the fact that, yeah, okay, that is creepy. They're just like, what? They get defensive. And I think this is just another sign of Louis' confidence, his comfort within who he is, and why so many people love Louis.
Yeah, it was just a mad one, like greedy fuckers, man. Madness, isn't it?
Pieces of shit.
It's cool seeing this sort of realness come out of Louis. I've always sensed that he's a genuine, down-to-earth guy, but now that I think about it, like here in this interview, it's clear that he's not like putting it on. I think before, maybe he sort of assumed this leadership role a little bit more and felt like he had to be on, and at some points he'd be like really in his head, and he just didn't seem to be as calm and at ease. Here, he seems a lot more calm and at ease and more comfortable, getting vulnerable in a real way. Such a good guy, such a good guy. Okay, next clip we're gonna watch here is Louis Tomlinson calls out Zach Sang over his tweet about Liam Payne, and I remember this.
Said something about Liam, I was like, waiting for it to listen. It wasn't too bad. It was that one tweet, was it?
Yes.
Which you now obviously feel really bad for because you know you're a good person with a good heart, and you don't want to shit on someone like Liam.
No, so here's the deal.
I'm joking. I'm enjoying watching you fluster, man.
he was expecting this and he was nervous. He knew it was coming.
Because truly,
Louis taking the piss with Zach here a little bit.
I'm joking. I'm enjoying watching you fluster.
You know, he's kind of guilting him in this sarcastic way.
I want to shit on someone like Liam.
But Louis is too good of a guy to let him sit in that for too long. Louis has a very good gauge on people's sensitivity, and you probably sense that Zach was getting a little flustered. So Louis is a sensitive guy as well. He's sensitive to other people's emotions. He picks up and he's able to read situations and the nuances and people's expressions really well.
if you really watch and you really give it time and you choose not to just live on the surface and look into his eyes in that video and really try to understand where he's at, it's somebody who's genuinely hurting. It's somebody who's genuinely confused. It's somebody who...
Yeah, this was what I was saying, right? This is what I was saying when Liam went on Impulsive. Yeah, this is a guy who's hurt. He's lost, and this is sort of how he's dealing with this hurt.
I knocked somebody while they were, in my opinion, like going through...
You kicked him on the floor, essentially.
I did, and that's incredibly wrong of me. And from that moment, I have learned completely, and I would never in a million years do something like that again. Because really, truly, I tweeted while I watched on the surface as opposed to really understanding what was going on there and really what we were all witnessing.
And I even went into it with a little bit of a bias and a little bit of a negative slant toward Liam. And yeah, I will admit to this day, he did seem a little arrogant on the show, and he said some things that were, you know, a bit out of line in my opinion and a bit arrogant. But at the end of the day, like Zach said, if you look below the surface, the guy who's going through a hard time.
When we watch videos or whatever it might be, and let me say, you know, this job is fucking challenging at times, mentally, very fucking challenging at times. And I know no one who's listening to this wants to fucking hear that, because, you know, we've got it good. I appreciate that. But at the same time, there are times where it is challenging mentally.
Interesting. I'm curious to hear where Louis is going with this, because he's getting real here. He's getting real with us.
Which of those annoying Paul brothers was it?
Logan.
Right. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing, the buttons he was pressing, and that's what I took away from it. I just thought whoever's involved in that show, it just felt disrespectful. That's all I'd say. And it just and they got so much out of it, as if he ain't got enough already. I fucking hate them Paul brothers.
Really? Wow. Louis throwing shots here at the Paul brothers.
You've got the look of a man who's friends with both of them.
No.
Like I said, man, Louis keeping it real in this interview, isn't he? That is funny. We're seeing some of that old Louis sass come out here. Yeah, no, Louis giving it to us straight here. Not that he didn't in the past. I don't want to say Louis didn't give it to us straight in the past, because he did. But what I think here, the difference is there's just a little bit more vulnerability and maturity that I hadn't seen as much in the past.
I appreciate you having this conversation with me, as I genuinely regret that tweet. And
as you should.
Liam Payne, I'm so deeply sorry. And if I see you in any situation or in a
if you
situation
see
like this,
him, you're going to
apologize.
You're going to apologize and also offer to buy him a new pair of trainers.
Whatever.
Love Louis. Louis got Liam's back, man. And although he's sort of joking with Zach here, he's in a way kind of holding him accountable. Okay, our last clip here of Louis talking about his son Freddie, who saw him perform for the first time. Very cool. I haven't heard Louis talk about his son at all.
Say that again.
The fact that your son is in the venue, do you think about that while you're on stage?
Massively.
Yeah.
That was probably across the 80 odd, and that's not a flex, the 80 odd dates I played this year, I'd say it's probably the most nervous I've...
Wow.
Because he was there?
And the irony is, like, you know, bless him, he's such a good lad, and he was so excited, and he brought a little banner, and also he normally...
It's so funny for me to think about Louis Tomlinson as this big performer, because he just is such a normal dude who is just incredibly relatable, and it's still funny to me, and it shocks me at times when I hear him talk about being this superstar who performs in front of these massive audiences.
This is the first time my son's going to see me perform. Like, I better deliver. You know what I mean? I need to look like a hero up there. So I can't remember. And also, I got really emotional as well. The first time I kind of locked eyes with him in the room. Because that room's big, but it's still, like, small enough for you to be able to see. And that was emotional, man. That was probably one of the most emotional times I've had.
Again, great hearing Louis talk about his emotions like this and just kind of opening up a little bit more. Although, you know, you don't want to mess with Louis, right? Louis can get serious with you, and, you know, Louis is quite direct. Like, it's rare to hear Louis beat around the bush. I feel like he can be an intimidating guy to be around at times, especially if you're on his bad side. And it's clear from this interview, just the way he's talked about Zayn and Liam, how much those relationships mean to him. I think out of all the guys, from what I've heard so far, Louis values those relationships maybe the most.
It's only now Freddie's been to that show that he understands that not everyone's dad does what I do. It's not until they kind of get amongst, like, you know, other friends and other families that they understand that maybe this is a little bit more abnormal.
That was fun. He seems like he's in good spirits. He seems like he's got a lot of confidence about him in this particular interview. Clearly has his brother's backs. We saw him get a little bit vulnerable, so I appreciate you recommending this video. If you want to watch my uncut reaction, you can. All you need to do is go to my Patreon page. I've included the link in my description below. Other than that, my name is Max. I will catch you soon. Peace.